Hello, hello, doing request video. Sorry it took me so long to do such a thing. Martin R. Cruz, Martino 007. Hi Kyle, how are you? I'm good, thank you. Hope you're well. Next video request, can you please talk about your thoughts on travel tourism in general and also the history of it, like how it began and all that. Thanks and have a nice day. You too. Okay. So, travel tourism, my thoughts on it, I like it. How did it begin and all that? I would say that, well, there had always been tourists back in the early days when there were tribal societies. You would have the crazy people, the adventurous people would be the traders. And they go in and they trade and they'd just be on their own, you know. And some of them would get killed, some of them would make it, and, but it wasn't something that everybody did, like in the times of Julius Caesar, the French didn't really know anything about England. They didn't really communicate at all. There were just a few traders who had some stories and stuff, but it was really random and, not a whole lot of connection going on there. And a lot of tribes would just take traders hostage. So if you were a trader in those days, you were pretty badass, and you didn't really care about dying, and you did die a lot. And I think it was the Belgians, the Belgae, who were the ones who, if you were to go into their territory as a trader, they'd just kill you and take your shit. And it wasn't because they were bad. They just had a philosophy that they didn't want to corrupt their society with other people's cultures because it would make them weak. They didn't. In the ancient times, if you had like wares that you didn't need, then that would make you weak and it would be your downfall, because they were so warlike. The Spartans were like that. They didn't even have money, or their money in Sparta was giant blocks of iron because they wanted to make people poor. And if you have to carry around big bags of money that don't worth much, then it discourages commerce, and keeps people on their toes and keeps them all warriors, and it worked for them for a while. That was Rome's philosophy too, to be as Spartan as possible for as long as possible. And so the trading wasn't what they were so interested in, and wasn't a whole lot of travel tourism. And then we had the Roman Empire, and there was a lot more travel going on there for sure. And I'm sure the rich people would be tourists, just like we are today. I was listening to the History of Rome today. Germanicus, one of the elites of Rome, and around the time of Jesus, did a tour of all over. Went to Egypt just to check out the pyramids and to check out these new people, and get his ass kissed by this other group of people, and also to do various legal type of diplomatic relations things, and but I think that was really the extent of the tourism in those days. The only other reason you would travel is if you were part of an army to go fight a war, and that's different. I would say the first how tourists and travel and tourists got started was Marco Polo. I remember in the 80s they had a TV miniseries called Marco Polo that I saw. I should see that again. Maybe it's on YouTube. He lived a long ass time. He lived to be like 75, from like 1200 to 1275 or something like that. And I think when he was like 15, he left, and then he didn't come back to Venice for like 21 years. He did a 21-year trip. So from when he was 15 until he was like, 35 or whatever, and then he came home and lived the rest of his life in Venice, but wrote books and became a super celebrity because, you know what? There were probably a lot of Marco Polos who had done that. They just never came back. They just died, and he happened to be the one who survived. He went way out to China. He went out to Tang, China. This was after the Genghis Khan. So this was the dynasty in China that were the Mongols. So the really illiterate, the royal family didn't know how to read or write. Their buildings were like built to look like tents to make the Mongol aristocracy feel more at home. And oh man, maybe they're not the Tang dynasty. Maybe it was somebody else, but whatever. They were in charge of China for like 75, 80 years until the regular Chinese people took the power back. But he went there when they were in charge, and he lived with them for a while. And I think they may have even like killed some of the people in his party. But they put him up, and they did their cultural exchange, and he I don't know where else he went, but he traveled all over Asia and lived in China for a while, and then went back to Italy. And after that, that was kind of the beginning of the Renaissance in Europe. In the 1100s, they kind of had their first Renaissance. Back when they did the Crusades to kill all the Muslims, they actually learned a lot of stuff from the Muslims and brought back a lot of knowledge. That's when they ditched their Roman numerals and took up the Arabic numerals, and learned more stuff about calendar and trigonometry and algebra and ancient Greek writing, because the Muslims had translated all that kind of stuff. And then right after that, they got destroyed, wiped out by the Mongols. And then after that, not so long after that, Marco Polo was born, and he went across the Silk Road from Europe to Asia. And but anyways, after Marco Polo, he was kind of the big inspiration. Everybody after that was like, oh my God, I want to be like Marco Polo. I want to travel. So they started to just do more trade in those times, and they had the Black Death, which killed off a lot of people, and then made another kind of reformation, because then the workers had more rights because there were less of them. They could bargain. And then we got into the normal or the colonialism after in 1492 Columbus found America, and then we started to just exploded like a nuclear bomb. People were circumnavigated the globe. Magellan did that. He was an Italian too, and Columbus was Italian. And then we had all these international, multinational corporations, kind of starting to make these governments in Europe more democratic, because the shareholders, the companies, and that was another big wave of travel around the world, which you could kind of call tourism, travel tourism. Mixed business with pleasure, and then the colonialism, and so that's the history of travel and tourism. And I guess we had another. When would have been the latest boom of travel and tourism? I guess hippie ages. Late '60s, people would start to actually travel around. Post World War II era, when the economy was doing well in America and Europe was doing well, people started to travel all over, and went to Nepal and started to live there for a long time. I guess Nepal then changed it and made it so you could only stay there 6 months, because a lot of people were straight up moving there and causing problems. There's some road called like Hippie Road or whatever, because all these hippies would do acid and like just cause problems, like eat too much acid and then jump off the roofs onto people and kill themselves. But yeah, in India, and so now we got people who are like our parents' age, like 70s, who did a lot of travel in India when they were younger, and now we got the second wave, and now travel and tourism is exploding. People are really starting to get around. I remember I went into, I spent like 4 months in Lake Atitlan, Guatemala, San Pedro on the south side, and it was still really rustic, like really cheap, and no cars around, just walking around, and natives walking around barefoot and stuff. But they're saying just a year before that, you could smoke weed right there in the restaurants, and now there were cops there watching people. So it had changed a lot just in the year before I got there. This is in like 2000, and then so right now it's probably big old hotels and different tourist prices for the tourists, and just really built up. I'm not the kind of traveler who goes to places twice, so I haven't seen places change. But my brother does that kind of stuff, and he's seen places change big time. Like, what does he say? Like places in Thailand, like Koh Samui and stuff. These island party places, just big hotels coming up and just more touristy. Kind of like how Cancun is now. Like 30 years ago, it was more rustic and mom and pop shops instead of big McDonald's there. But tourism within Colorado has changed a lot too. My brother just last month, 4th of July, went up to Conundrum Hot Springs for like a week, and it's 11,000 foot Mount Hot Springs up there, tree line. We have to hike 9 miles to get there, and I spent the 4th of July there in '96, I think it was, and I was the only one there. Me and one other dude were there. But my brother was there, and he said on the 4th of July there were like 20 or 30 people there. So people are starting to get out and explore around a lot more and travel. Yeah, I think it's a really big industry of the future. One of the biggest industries of the future is going to be travel and tourism. I've talked about this before on YouTube videos, like when people ask me to talk about the future. I remember, maybe it was Martin who asked me that one. I started talking about travel and tourism, how that's going to be a big industry in the future. Because, there's so many cool places to see in the places, so you can go to a place and have your little tour guide who go and take you around all over and stay in the hotel and chill out and meet other people. It's really fun to be on vacation and then go hang out, go into the common area room and just sit down and drink beers or whatever with all these other people from all over the world, all these other countries, and just exchange stories of places you've been and cool stuff you've seen around the area along the traveler's route. And then you can talk about your own countries and stuff, and it's just fun. People are in a really good mood when a bunch of people are on vacation together. It's totally different vibe, like than if you were at work or at your hometown. People are just jazzed, full of energy, and just happy, and a lot less constraints to your personality. It's kind of like being drunk, only when you're not drunk. Social lubrication. People are just really happy and friendly and outgoing, and it's really fun to be a tourist at like a hostel or something. Right now, the only people, when you go to a country, the only people you see are really Western Europeans and Americans. People from poor countries don't travel. So the natives of the country, when you go there, it's bizarre. You don't really hang out with the natives. You just hang out with other tourists. Partially because also the natives aren't so good at English. But in the future, more and more people are going to want to travel. And natives, like people from poor countries, black people from Senegal and stuff. Actually, I hung out with a good dude from Senegal in Rio. But people from really fucked up countries like Gabon or whatever, Rwanda. Once those countries get their shit together, they'll be able to travel all over the world. And the future, wow, it's amazing. Going to be amazing. Just the cultural exchange levels are going to go really high up. I remember, when I'm a kid, and I don't think I was the only one. You think about and look at pictures and other cultures, and you just think it's beautiful. You don't look at another culture and think that you're better than them. Kind of like how you get when you're older. You think they're just those poor, stupid people. But you're like, oh wow, cool dress. I like the little red dot between your eyes in India, and those little dresses and the black African hats and the dress, and it just gets exciting. And I think that's the idea we'll have in the future. Of people will take pride in the places they're from and the dress they have and the cultures, the traditions they have and the food and everything. Not in a freaked out way, like pissed off at everybody else, like they're the best and don't fuck with them or whatever. But just positive, like, oh yeah, over here, check out what we have and our way to do things, and just everybody is just interested in everybody else's culture and traveling around. And there'll always be these hostels that have the drinking parties every night and the cool lounge hangout areas behind, and the activities, the group excursions and all this kind of stuff, pool parties or whatever. It'll get more and more elaborate, man. These hostels are going to be like mini country clubs pretty soon, man. But they'll be cheap, people. You'll have the opportunity to just camp out in your hammock if you don't want to pay as much rent, but you can still hang out with all the people and have the mushroom parties and stuff. And yeah, big old party, man. And that's the future of it. The next time I travel, I think there's also going to be a big future, like I said, of low budget tourism. People who just camp out in the woods and then they ride their bike around on bike tourism, just eat canned food. And I think the laws are going to relax a lot, and people are going to become really tolerant for people who just sleep on the side of the road. Park their car and sleep in their car, or sleep in the bushes off the side of the road. Right now, there's a €90 fine for doing that in Europe, except for Scandinavia, they let you do it. But also, one step up from that, the hostel traveling, the young people just sleeping in basic rooms and stuff, and just having a hangout area. I'd love to own a hostel like that, just a low budget hostel, just make enough money to survive and just hang out with all the travelers all the time in some country. I've seen a bunch of those. Last time when I saw like that was in Montevideo, Montenegro. Was that the name of the capital of Montenegro? But yeah, it was this American dude. He was like 60 and he had a English girlfriend who was like 25 who lived with him, and he lived in this apartment that had like 2 bedrooms. There was a bedroom where he and his girlfriend lived, and then there was the living room. In the living room, he had all these like mattresses thrown on the floor, and you pay like $10 to stay there, and then you can cook in their kitchen, and it was pretty chill, man. Right there in downtown. A lot of those kinds of places will pop up. Yeah, and bike touring is a big travel tourism thing in the future. And then also kayak touring. I'm going to do that one of these days. And yeah, and just the really organized tours all over the place outside of the places. It'll be probably the biggest industry of the future within the next 50 years. It'll be the big one, and everybody will do it, and everybody will be involved in it, and that's when the party's going to start, man. That's when life's going to get fun and on planet Earth, dude. So I like it, man. Next time I do traveling, I'm going to bike tour around America, camping in the bushes. I'm going to travel my own country, and then I'll do my kayak trip. And then one time I want to, when I'm older, I want to bike tour through Italy and France and retrace and look at all of the ancient Roman ruins and stuff over there. Ooh, there's all kinds of cool stuff to do. Like, I'd be cool to ski across Antarctica to the South Pole and back out to some place. I thought of this really cool like shell, this like plastic shell that you put skis on, so you don't have to set up your tent. You just open up the hatch, jump in, and then in the morning you get up and you pull it. But anyways, people are going to get pretty hardcore, so people are going to be doing lots of really, the stuff that's really hardcore now is just going to be like normal in like 20 years. Like right now, if you were to say row across the Atlantic Ocean, that's like, whoa, that's hardcore. But 20 years, dude, that's going to be something that, one kid out of every high school does. It'll be like, oh, cool, wow, yeah, that's fun. Maybe I'll do that. And on, skiing across the Antarctic. Yeah, it's going to be fun pretty soon. Okay, so that's that for travel and tourism.